Hello students, myself Om Prakash Katte and today we are discussing regarding the biodiversity conservation. Biodiversity conservation, it is given in the chapter biodiversity and conservation chapter. So let's we have to discuss about the conservation of biodiversity. So what do you mean by conservation of biodiversity? It is the management of the biosphere in such way that it may yield the greatest sustainable benefit to present generation while maintaining its potential to meet the needs and aspiration of the future generation. Conservation of biodiversity means we have to conserve and manage the biodiversity so that can be utilized for the present need and can be conserved for the future generation. So the management system of the biosphere where the biodiversity of plants and animals get conserved, and that conservation help us to fulfill the present generation need and inspiration of the future generation also. This conservation of the biodiversity, there are the few objective of this one. Main objective is to maintain the essential ecological processes and light supporting system. So biodiversity is essential for the maintaining the air, water and soil and lights, these light supporting system. Second important of the objective of the biodiversity is to preserve the biodiversity of the species or the range of genetic material for the world organism. And third main objective is to ensure the continuous use of the species in fact ecosystem which support the rural communities and urban industries. So in our rural areas the peoples are utilizing the some resources from the this biodiversity, as well as our industry runs on the waste raw material of the biodiversity. So these are the main objective of the bio conservation of the biodiversity. Students, why should we conserve the biodiversity? Here it is a question, why should we conserve the biodiversity? So conservation of the biodiversity, we there are the many regions, and these many regions we are categorizing in three categories. So why should we conserve the biodiversity? There are many regions, but these all regions we are categorizing in the three groups. First of the group is narrowly utilitarians. It means in the narrow band, what is the use of the biodiversity? Narrowly utilitarians. In such cases, what is the use of biodiversity? So the biodiversity used for cereals, it is used for the pulses, it is used for the fruits, used for the firewood, it's used for the construction of the material, it is used for industrial product like tannin, lubricant, dyes, resin and perfume. So more than 20% of the drugs currently which are available in the market, it's come from the plant. More than 25 species of the plants are used for the traditional medicine purposes. So these are the narrowly utilitarians of regions of the bio. So narrowly it means in the short way. If we understand why to conserve biodiversity, the question is then it's for food, fiber, firewood, industrial product like the resin, gum dyes and medicine. Second important function of the biodiversity, for this one we have to consider, this is broadly utilitarians. It means broad concept. So what is the useful for the this biodiversity? So biodiversity play the major roles in our ecosystem. It's providing the ecosystem services which cannot be given a price tag. So if we want to pay, how many rupees we have to pay for the service of the that ecosystem, so it is unlimited. So the role of our ecosystem for us is with there is no any such type of price tag for this one. So this come under the broadly use of the biodiversity. In broadly use, first one important is the biodiversity. Generally you will see the Amazon's forest, which is called the lungs of the planet. So the Amazon forest provide about 20% of the oxygen in the earth atmosphere. So oxygen, if in market or in the hospital, if you will see what is the price of each oxygen cylinder. But if you will see the biodiversity give us free oxygen. So it is the broad use of the biodiversity, broadly utilitarian use of the biodiversity. So biodiversity give us oxygen, and this oxygen they give us that is not having the price tag. Second important of biodiversity is the insect, birds, some insect, some birds, bees, okay, bat, all these help are the pollination. And when they pollinate the flowers, then productivity increases. So second, the biodiversity is help for the pollination of the flower, because without pollination of flower we cannot get the fruits and seeds. So pollination it increases the bioproductivity, and that's why biodiversity is having useful. Third important role of the our biodiversity is aesthetic pleasure. Sometime you will see bird watching, watching spring flower, walking through these thick forests, walking up to the waking up to the bugle song. So these are the aesthetics pleasure to us, which are provided by the our biodiversity. So this narrow band, it means short use or short in short use, as well as we have discussed the broadly use of the biodiversity in broadly utilitarian region for this one. And third region for the conservation of biodiversity is ethical region. Every species has the intrinsic value, even if it is not for any economical value to us, they do not gain the benefit, but we have a moral duty to care of their well-being and pass out to the biological legacy in a proper form to our future generation. So some biodiversity, suppose people like up tree, banyan like up tree, we are not cutting them because there is our ethical region. So these are the three broad region. Why do we consider the biodiversity? Then after this we have the another topic, and that is how do we conserve biodiversity. So there are some basic approaches for the conservation of the biodiversity. So biodiversity can be conserved by the two approaches, mainly in situ conservation. It is also called on-site conservation. And second is ex situ conservation or off-site conservation. Now let's in situ conservation is what? It is the process of protecting the endangered species of the plant and animal in their natural habitat, either by protecting or cleaning up in the habitat itself, or by the defending the species from the predator. If the biodiversity is conserved in their natural habitat, so if biodiversity is conserved in their natural habitat, so this conservation of the biodiversity is called in situ conservation, or it is also called on-site conservation. We are protecting these species from their predators, so that is also conservation. But this conservation occurs in their natural habitat. It helps in the recovering population in the surrounding where they have developed their distinctive feature. So this type of conservation, in situ conservation, help in recovering the population in the surrounding where they have developed their distinctive feature. So population of the particular species is increases in that particular area where they live. National park, biosphere reserve, wildlife sanctuary, these are the some sites where in situ conservation is done. So national park, biosphere reserve and wildlife sanctuary. Second category is ex situ conservation. It is the process of protecting the endangered species of plants and animals by removing it from the unsafe or threatened habitat and placing under the care of human. It means when the species are cared or species are conserved outside of their natural habitat. So when species are conserved outside of their natural habitat under the care of human being, it's called the ex situ conservation or off-site conservation. It helps in recovering the population or preventing their extinction under stimulated conditions that closely resemble their natural. So we are making such type of habitat which is close, which similar to the their natural habitat, but the organisms and plants and animals are conserved outside their natural habitat. So botanical gardens, zoo, arboreta, seeds, pollen bank, gene bank. These are the some approaches of ex situ conservation or off-site conservation. Let's we have to discuss now in situ conservation and off ex situ conservation, their classification. Biodiversity conservation we have categorized in two categories. In situ conservation, it means their natural habitat, protected area network. So sacred forest, sacred lake, biosphere reserve, national park, wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, and ex situ conservation, sacred plants and home garden, seed bank, field gene bank, cryopreservation, tissue culture, botanical garden, zoo, arboreta. These are the some ex situ conservations way. Then in situ strategy, in situ strategy, and in this first is biosphere reserve. 425 biosphere reserve in the world. Out of this one, 14 are in the India, like Nilgiri, Nanda Devi, Manas. And in these biosphere reserve, hotspots have been identified for the maximum protection to the endemic or endangered species. We should understand what is hotspot. Hotspot is a region or area where the species are facing the risk of the extinction, and the extinction is very high in that area. The species of plants and animals are facing the high risk of the extinction and they are going to extinct year by year. So this place is called the hotspot, risk place for the extinction. In India, there were 25 biodiversity hotspots earlier, but now there are 34 hotspots here. It means the many of the species are going to be extinct day by day. So the extinction species biodiversity hotspot is what? Biodiversity hotspot is the region with very high level of species richness and have high degree of endemism. It means there is a high risk of the extinction. So this spot is called the hotspot. There are 34 hotspots in the global basis of there. Three are in India. So in India, yes, we have discussed that 25 biodiversity hotspot, and now it increases to become 34 hotspot. So out of 34 in India, we have three. They are three are in India. These are Western Ghat and Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and Himalaya. So this is biosphere region. Second is national park, wildlife sanctuary. So India has 90 national park and 448 wildlife sanctuary according to 2002 list. Jim Corbett Park National Park is the first to establish in India. Later we are coming what is national park, wildlife sanctuary, differences also. Third is sacred forest. These are the undisturbed forest without any human intervention, and they are surrounded by highly degraded landscape. So this type of forest are get protected by the villager or tribals people. So in such forest, rare species of plant, endangered and endemic species of plants and animals are occur. Third one in situ biosphere, national park, wildlife sanctuary, forest, and secret grooves are found. So these are given in our NCERT book also. Khasi and Jatia Hill in Meghalaya, these are the secret grooves. Western Ghat region of Karnataka, Maharashtra. Aravali Valley of Rajasthan, hills of Rajasthan. Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar area of Madhya Pradesh. These are also having the sacred grove. So it was regarding in situ conservation. Then ex situ conservation like botanical garden, zoological park. So India has today 35 botanical garden and 275 zoos. Species cryopreservation, where the cryopreservation is the method of conservation by storage of material at low temperature for very long period of time. So gamete of the threatened species they kept in the very low treatment or low temperature. Another is tissue culture method or micropropagation methods. So by this micropropagation method, we can conserve the biodiversity. Seed bank, gene bank, DNA bank, these are also some way for the ex situ conservation. So let's we have to discuss now biosphere. Biosphere is a specified area in which multiple use of land is permitted by dividing it into certain zone. So that particular land as zone is specified for the particular activity. So in forest also, the forest is divided into the many zone, and in that zone particular some zone regions human activity are involved, but some zone region their human activities are not permitted. So this type is called the biosphere. As I have discussed, Nilgiri, Nanda Devi, Manas, Sundarban, these are the few biosphere regions in India. Second is national park. National park is an area which is strictly reserved for the betterment of the wildlife, where human activities like forestry, grazing, cultivation are not permitted. In our India, we have the many national parks such as Kaziranga National Park, then Corbett National Park, Gir National Park, Kanha National Park. These are the few of the national park in India. Then wildlife sanctuary. It's the protected area which is reserved for the conservation of only animals, and human activity like harvesting of timber, collection of forest product, okay, private ownership rights, these are get permitted long as they do not interfere with the well-being. They are permitted, but they this activity do not interfere with the uh, wild animal. So this is sanctuaries, wildlife sanctuary. We have some sanctuaries like the Periyar Sanctuary, Kerala, Chilka Lake Bird Sanctuary, Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. Okay, so these are the few name of the sanctuaries. Another is sacred forest, as I told you, sacred forest and sacred lake. In forest, there are some regions, some protected area that protected by the tribal due to religious aspect. So some forest patches are being protected by tribals people due to the some religious sensitivity. They are having the some beliefs. Then due to the tribals religious fact, the forest and wildlife get protected. So these are called the forest, sacred forest. Such forests have been found to the most undisturbed, and they are usually surrounded by most degraded landscape. So this is not interference with the human activity, and such sacred forest in India are present in state of Karnataka, Maharashtra, Kerala, Meghalaya, okay, in Sikkim. So Chechupatri Lake is declared sacred lake by people. So it means this type of lake and forest get protected by the tribals people or villager due to religious fact. And sacred grove are found in Khasi Jatiya Hill in Meghalaya, Western Ghat region of Karnataka and Maharashtra, Aravali Hills of Rajasthan, and Sarguja Chanda Bastar area of Madhya Pradesh. XII conservation strategy seed bank or germ bank. So germ plasma means genetic material of the plant is stored, and that genetic material is stored in the uh, cryogenic laboratory or place, and that laboratory the genetic material storage. So and then by vitro method, tissue culture method, the new plants of this species get generated. Another gene bank is there, cryopreservation, especially in cryopreservation it is also type of vitro conservation, where the germ plasma are storage on the low temperature minus 196 degree in liquid nitrogen. This may be done is very rapid. Okay, so differently for tissue culture method, like the crop of potato, it's protected in the cryopreservation. Botanical garden and zoo, these are also some way of the ex situ conservation. Now, world level, World Organization is very conscious regarding the biodiversity, because for the biodiversity there is no political boundary, and this biodiversity conservation is a responsibility of the all nations, and that's why the time to time some meetings are held. This is the historic convention, the Earth Summit. This is the historic convention on biological diversity held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. So when the Earth Summit was held, 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, and it called all the nation to appropriate measure for conservation of biodiversity and sustainable utilization of the benefit from the biodiversity. Another is World Summit on the Sustainable Development. It was held in 2002 in Johannesburg in South Africa. So many time question come from this one, conventions on the biodiversity, where the Earth Summit was held and when and what was the motto, where the World Summit was on sustainable development held. It was in the Johannesburg in South Africa 2002, and 190 countries signed commitment to achieve the significant reduction in the current rate of the biodiversity loss at the global, regional and local level. So these are the two important points for the convention of the biodiversity. So thus in biodiversity we have learned there why should we conserve biodiversity for narrowly utilitarian where for the product obtained from the forest. Broadly utilization, they give oxygen, they help for photosynthesis, help for the pollination. That's why we conserve the forest. And some ethical value for moral duty. It's our moral duty to care them, so that we have to conserve them. And second part we have to study, that is conservation by in situ in their natural habitat, and another ex situ conservation outside their natural habitat under the care of the human being. And then convention we have learned Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, and second World Summit on Sustainable Development, it was held in Johannesburg in South Africa in 2002. And all this shows that the world level and global level the biodiversity is very useful, and there is a need of conservation of the biodiversity due to the human conservation of biodiversity, because human interpretation or human activity are increases day by day. So it is all about the conservation of biodiversity. Thank you.